Before dying, my grandmother looked out of the window at the sky and said, "Now I want to be free." They see me from the windows at the game of hopscotch. The Pandits, my grandmother, they offer me salt tea, saturated with love. I didn't know then that one of the squares in the Kashmiri hopscotch is hell. I toss the terracotta into divided spaces and hop over rectangles to retrieve that which I lost. I didn't know then that one of the squares in the Kashmiri hopscotch is hell. I am limping to hell. I return to the Srinagar of my childhood, the Ranawari of my grandmother, where, as a child, I would see the lights of the temple on the waters. The magic and mystery of Sanskrit unfold on the waters.
I remember a lake overflowing 3 times. I remember once seeing the sky as the only place there is, and once seeing a bridge, north to south, from Harmukh to Kausar, and 7 times I remember the whole world becoming nothing.
The city is the memory of massacres. Buddhist monks fleeing persecution had sought refuge in Srinagar. Kashmir is paradise, an enclosure from the hell of the other. The violence Srinagar witnessed in 1990s shattered human dignity, and everyday life changed beyond recognition. Ranawari, Batmalu, Khanyar. Srinagar's downtown became the nerve center of the Kashmiri revolt. Now, Ranawari is silent in defeat. Alienation, an euphemism for the life that Kashmiris live, a life of despair. We learn to think with pain, to be patient, not to entrust ourselves to failure, not to indulge nostalgia for success. And confront on our own the maniac silence at the heart of our conversations with the world. People huddle over radios in their homes, talk too much, and try not to think. Our gaze turned to the ground. We hurry along on the streets with our heads bowed. Between 1990 and 2002, lie 12 years of violence and more than 50,000 lives. Srinagar exploded in a spontaneous revolt against decades of political opportunism in the winter of 1990. Once on the streets, the people refused to go back. But the rebellion soon came to be dominated by a right-wing Islamic sentiment. The slogan, "Hum kya chahte azadi," best sums up the sentiment inspired by pro-independence JKLF in 1990. JKLF's call to arms ended in inconsolable defeat, and they offered a unilateral ceasefire in 1994. But the pro-Pakistan Islamist Hizbul Mujahideen soon countered the JKLF slogan for Azadi with its own slogan. Azadi ka matlab kya? La ilaha illallah. The war turned Srinagar, Sopore and other Kashmiri towns into towns of rubble, and the worst had yet to come.
The corpses the flags wrapped turned to dust. It is time to return.
This is home, and this the closest I'll ever be to home. The Jhelum's waters are no longer so clean, so ultramarine. The colors, it's true, aren't so brilliant. My love is burned out. Srinagar hasn't been destroyed by the fighting the way Beirut was in the 1970s or Sarajevo in the 1990s. Srinagar is a wretched desolation. In an abandoned temple, I recognize without meeting my own disturbed soul. The Kashmiri Pandits leave the valley, forced out by fear. Faced with the disaster, had we remained together, we could have become a silence.
If you're hiding behind inner walls, then you're condemned to spend the rest of your life trying to demolish them.
I remember the ruins of Kashmir's past from television. I can never forget a madman I had seen on television haunt these ruins. Madness lurks somewhere in these shadows, the saffron link to my past. My past is ruins, and I fear the madness.
With a rope of untwisted thread, I tow a boat on the ocean. Where will my God hear me? Will he bear me across?
Bijbihara, an ancient center of Sanskrit learning, now is the name of a massacre. On the fateful Friday in 1993, Bijbihara gathered in a demonstration to protest the siege at Hazratbal. As soon as the demonstration turned to the national highway, nervous and edgy soldiers opened fire. More than 40 people lost their lives, most of them aged between 15 and 20. Son after son never returned from the Friday prayers. Bijbihara, Gaukadal, Sopor, all it takes to wash away the blood of massacres is buckets of water. The dead of Bijbihara were buried in a playground. When the wall of the playground was being constructed, a young boy carved his name in the wet cement. Little did he know that he is writing on his own tombstone. After Arshad's body had been laid to rest, it was discovered that he lies buried exactly under his own name.
बड़ी बाबा लोग बच्चे लक्चारस में आसमान को खूनी मैं तो बाबा में वंत आसमान क्या गो खूनी दोपन बैठल चेचन न पता खून सुकाता हूँ सच खून नाहक अच्छा मंच बतबल अगर आज से बतपहल बाबा में वंत आज ये खून नाहक कसम आसमान छू वोलूम कसम के यूथ ग्रेमिटी इंसान इंसान पहचान इसी चाहते आज तक इंसान बनो सब इंसान इसमें गाशी और कहीं मतलब स्वयं का बोलने का क्या असली दौर क्या मन आज गए हिंदू गोश्त मुसलमान सुन खौफ आस मुसलमान गोश्त सिख सुन खौफ आस
The moments of intolerance in Kashmir have been brutal. The valley had been invaded and ruined times without number, and could not remain insulated from religious fundamentalism and the sibling hatreds of India and Pakistan. Here in Chitty Singhpura, the past is an absolute present trauma.
Those who were taken out of their houses in the night and put against the wall, did they scribble messages for us on the wall before dying?
There's no peace for the living, no forgiveness, only labyrinths of solitude.
Allah yani veli Khudaya son günahlarını. Ya Allah yani veli Khudaya hayır veli. Ya Allah yani
The news from the border is even more horrifying. Kunanposhpura, Dardpura, unfamiliar names from distant Kashmir, are at the receiving end of the war between the militants and the army. In the absence of the tulip roofs, the tin roofs ricochet bullets. The houses entomb the desolate Kashmiris. Kashmiri houses. Ships anchored to the last ghat of the world. I can't summon up the courage to go to Kunanposhpura. So, the village is passed by. The village of the alleged mass rape of February 23, 1991. At Dardpura, the register of suffering opens up a little more. Those who disappeared never returned. There are more than 100 war widows in Dardpura. The women of this small village deal with an anxiety that is hard to tame. Srinagar is the martyrs' graveyard at Eidgah. I sit with the mourners as a mourner in the garden of Kashmiri martyrs, with the inconsolable, the abandoned. Inconsolable, abandoned, my grandmother often turned to the songs of Habba Khatun, the wife of Yusuf Shah Chak, Kashmir's last independent king. When her husband was exiled from the valley by the Mughal king Akbar, she went among the people with her sorrow. Kashmir never reconciled to this loss of independence. Habba Khatun found refuge with the Sufis, but moved from village to village, giving voice in her songs to the melancholy of a suppressed people. Her grief, alive to this day in generations of Kashmiri poetry, expresses a historical solitude.
I lost my way in the forest. Won't I encounter him, sitting under the tree?
Shah Hamadan, the Persian Sufi, recognized Nundarishi's synthesis of Buddhism, Hinduism and Sufism as the Kashmiri way of life. But at Tral, you witness Kashmir's failure to preserve the dialogue between the Persian Sufis and the Kashmiri Rishis, or the meaning of any dialogue for that matter. People read Upanishads and poems to Shiva, the lord of the La Makan in Persian. Even now Kashmir speaks to Hamadan, to Lhasa, to Banaras. But Hamadan, Lhasa and Banaras no longer exist. The memory of my grandmother, Moji, I called her, hurls me down the roads to go up to Tsrar Sharif. Tsrar burns. My grandmother calls out to me. For her, it is catastrophe. Nund Rishi is Sheikhul Alam, the wisdom of the worlds. And in the destruction of Tsrar, my grandmother saw the end of all wisdom and the end of all worlds. There's a longing in Kashmir for the blessed word to come from Tsrar Sharif. Kashmir is a war, the bowl of the Rishis, and Rishism, the inverted bowl of Kashmir's desire.
Kralan banti, panine pan, dun karinak nakish. Kya dry hultikal, kya jana, they can one chovnasma.
Asmadman, Vorchi, Lele, Tamigale, Amrit, Pivo, Tamishudut, Tale, Tutmevar, Jatam, Divo, Yutbavar, Manghai Khodayo, Tutbevar, Jatam, Divo, Zonmion Os, Amrat Guru, Tamiti Adoor, Samsar Kivo, Gaugoras, Sata Soro, Tutmevar, Jatam, Divo, Yutbavar, Manghai Khodayo, Tutmevar.
The Kashmiri word for human face is Bhuth, from Buddha. It is in the face of the other that Kashmir recognizes God.
Hazrati Hakkas, Tutmevar, Jatam, Divo, Yutbavar, Manghai Khodayo, Tutmevar, Jatam, Divo, Ramas, Pata Poholu, Tamidamas, Wakan Kivo, Sujaharmak, Vujetsulu, Tutmevar, Jatam, Divo, Yutbavar.
We preserve the words of Buddha in our silence. A culture of tolerance had been turned by Nund Rishi into morality of the other. The morality that refused to understand the schizophrenia of India's partition, the language of rejection of the other. It is a whole morality that is at stake in war-ravaged Kashmir. But as a Nundurush Shuk goes, on its spire, the phoenix is dear to destiny.
means for us to wait eternally. Thought which is waiting for that which cannot be thought of. Nothing but waiting.
Aman orji lenge kamikare amrit jivo kamikyu thale thale susmyavar nam jivo susmyavar mangai padayo susmyavar nam jivo sonyo Amra Guru, thank you, Adoor, Amar Guru, Adoor Gopalakrishnan.